Hi everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to crochet this interesting headpiece. It's a hybrid between a bonnet with long ears and an ear flap hat. It's quite an unusual hat. It looks great, and these ears can also be used as a scarf. You can wear it as a trendy bonnet with long ears, or you can wrap the flaps under your chin to keep extra warm. You can make the ear flaps any length you like. They can be very short or very long. The stitch pattern used is very elastic. It looks like knit ribbing. Because of this, the hat fits perfectly. I've added wedges, short rows, at the top for a better anatomical fit. The seam is located right here. When the hat is lying flat, it's visible. But as soon as I stretch the fabric, the seam disappears. The hat is worked in turning rows. We start by chaining, then the hat is crocheted sideways using a ribbing stitch. We'll work the crown wedges as we go to ensure a good fit. The ear flaps are worked simultaneously with the main body. Finally, we will seam the hat at the end. The final step is the decorative edging. Let's take a closer look at the stitch. It's reversible, looking the same on both sides. From the inside, it looks like this. Here is the seam. It's noticeable from the inside, but don't worry, it's completely invisible from the outside. I'll show you how to make this hat for a head circumference of approximately 54-58 centimeters. Let me give you the exact measurements. From the crown to the end of the ear flaps is about 45.5 centimeters. As mentioned, you can make them longer or shorter. Do whatever you prefer. This distance here is about 18.5 centimeters. It's adjustable, you can make it a bit larger or smaller. The distance at the back nape is about 21 centimeters. Both the front and back sections can be adjusted for depth. It's a very modular design. The ear flap length is completely up to you. You can wear the bonnet like this or like that. I used 3 strands of yarn held together. 2 strands of Alize Lanagold mohair and 1 strand of Alize Lanagold Fine. The hat turned out very warm. I used a 5.5mm hook. You can use any yarn that works with this hook size to achieve the correct gauge. I've crocheted this swatch. I started with 16 chains and worked 8 rows. Now let's measure the swatch in its relaxed state. Do not stretch the swatch while measuring. Measuring the swatch helps you match my gauge and choose the right yarn. Again, I have 16 stitches and 8 rows. You should crochet a small swatch like this and compare it to my measurements to see if you need to work tighter or looser or change your hook or yarn. Mine is 8 centimeters wide and about 14 centimeters long. Once you've made your swatch with the same number of rows and stitches, compare your dimensions with mine. Check if your gauge matches. If your swatch is larger, you're either using thicker yarn or working too loosely. Try a thinner yarn or a smaller hook. If your swatch is smaller, your yarn is too thin or your tension is too tight. Switch to a thicker yarn or a larger hook. Now let's begin. Make a slip knot on your hook and chain 36. This chain determines the height of the hat from the crown to the nape. If you want a deeper hat, just chain more. I started with 36 chains, which is about 29 centimeters. From this 29 centimeters chain, the finished hat height will be 21 centimeters. The stitch pattern, slip stitch ribbing, is quite dense and compresses. The end where the yarn tail is will be the crown. To shape the wedges at the top, count 10 stitches down from the crown. Mark it with a stitch marker. I'll use this mark as a guide for the wedges. Let me recount. Yes, 10 stitches. We will use this marker to know where to start the short rows. Now we will work from the bottom up towards the marker. Up to the marker, we'll use the ribbing stitch. In the first row, we work to the marker and then gradually shift one stitch higher each time to form the wedge. Chain 1, turning chain. Skip the turning chain and work a slip stitch as follows. Insert the hook, pull up a loop, and pull that loop directly through the loop on the hook. Continue working one slip stitch into each chain until you reach the stitch before the marker. Approaching the marker now. This stitch before the marker is the last one where I work a slip stitch. The 10th stitch, the marked one, is left unworked for now. Chain 1 and turn your work. Now we will work slip stitches into the back loop only. See the V of the stitch? One loop is closer to you, the other is further away. Work into the back loop. Work one slip stitch into each stitch across to the end of the row. This back loop only slip stitch pattern is what we will use for the entire hat. Always working slip stitches in the back loops. Continue to the end of the row. I have just a few stitches left. I'm working every stitch across, including the very last one. The last stitch can be a bit hidden, but make sure to work into it. Chain 1, turn. And once again, slip stitch in the back loop only. Work every stitch until you reach the marker. This is the second to last stitch. And this is the last stitch of the previous row. It's hiding, but you must work it. To continue forming the crown wedge, work a slip stitch into the next available chain of our starting foundation. Now chain 1, turn and work slip stitches in the back loop only until you reach the bottom of the row. Currently I am working the nape section while simultaneously shaping the crown wedge. Keep going. finishing this row. Don't forget the very last stitch of the row. It's often hard to see, but you must work it, otherwise your edge won't be straight. Chain 1, turn. Work back up in back loop, only slip stitches. Now work a slip stitch into the next foundation chain. Every second row we step up by 1 stitch on the foundation chain. By working these short rows we are creating the wedge shape. Always work that last stitch. Now let's move to the next chain in the foundation. This stitch here is already worked from the previous time. So the next stitch is this one. Slip stitch into it. Our row length increases by 1 stitch each time. Chain 1, turn and slip stitch in back loop only across to the end of the row. Chain 1, turn. Work back loop only, slip stitches up. Work into the next foundation chain. You can see the crown wedge starting to take shape. As we approach the crown, always find that last hidden stitch. Then work into the next chain. This one is used, so we go into the next one. The wedge slope is now clearly visible. We continue with this principle. Work all the way down to the bottom. Then back up, adding 1 more foundation chain stitch each time. Chain 1, turn, work up and grab the next foundation chain stitch. Chain 1, work back, and so on. Continue until the wedge is finished and you reach the very first chain. I've worked back and forth until the entire foundation chain was used. The first wedge is done, as is the back nape section of the hat. The next stage is starting the second crown wedge and simultaneously beginning the ear flap. You decide the ear flap length. I'll show you how. Chain 1, turn and work back loop, only slip stitches to the end of the row. Standard procedure so far. Reach the end. Work the last stitch. Now chain for the ear flap. The more you chain, the longer the flap will be. I am chaining 36. Chain less for shorter flaps or more for longer ones. I have 36 chains here. I'll be working the hat body and flap at the same time. I'll show you how to make a rounded tip. Before continuing, count 10 stitches down from the crown again to start the second wedge. This wedge will be worked exactly like the first one. Working up towards the marker now. Chain 1 and slip stitch into every chain. This is just like how we worked the very first row. Continue until you've worked across the entire ear flap chain. Now I'm back to the main hat body. Work back loop only slip stitches as usual. Stop at the stitch before the marker. Just like before, chain 1, turn and work back down. On this side, work back loop only slip stitches to the very end of the row. Work every stitch including the last one. Now to create the rounded edge of the flap, chain 2. One is the turning chain, and the second one allows us to increase by 1 stitch in the next row. This is how we increase. Skip the first chain. Work a slip stitch into the second chain. Continue with standard back loop only slip stitches. I'll remove the marker now as I can see the pattern. Working the final stitches of this row. Slip stitch into the back loop only of the crown section. We've increased the row by 1 stitch. Chain 1, turn. Work back loop only slip stitches back down. Finish the row working every single stitch. Don't miss this hidden one. Chain 2, turn. Skip the turning chain, slip stitch into the second one. Another increase to help shape the curve of the ear flap. The principle remains work up to the crown as usual, adding 1 stitch. Work back down. At the bottom, chain 2 to continue the flap curve, just like in previous rows. Then work back up, adding 1 more crown stitch to continue the wedge. I'll show you what to do next once you reach this point. I've finished the steps I just described. Only a couple of stitches left to finish this row. Now on this side I will work straight, no more increases. On the crown side I'll continue adding 1 stitch per wedge row until the second wedge is complete. Working the end of this partial row now. I have 4 steps of the flap curve. Turn, chain 1, work back loop only slip stitches across. Adding the next crown stitch here. Slip stitch. Chain 1, turn and work back down. Chain 1, turn. From here on, no more increases at the bottom, it will be a straight edge. At the crown, continue adding 1 stitch each time. Work back and forth, adding 1 stitch at the crown until you reach the very top. Work straight at the bottom and increase at the crown until the second wedge is fully formed. Second wedge complete. We've reached the top. And here is the straight section of the ear flap. Now we must start the third wedge. Count down 10 stitches and mark. Mark the 10th stitch. Third wedge is worked the same way. Simultaneously, as we work the third wedge, we will finish the ear flap. Now we start decreasing by 1 stitch to create the opposite curve. I'll show you how to decrease so the ear flap looks symmetrical. We had 4 increases on the first side. So we need 4 decreases on this side. In this row, I stop 2 stitches from the end. I work 1 and leave the very last stitch unworked. Chain 1, turn. This decrease is done simply by leaving the last stitch unworked. Work back loop only slip stitches back up until you reach the stitch before the marker. You know the drill, work to the marker, chain 1, turn and work back down. Leave the last stitch unworked again. Chain 1, turn. Now you can see the steps forming on this side of the ear flap. They should match the other side perfectly. So 1 more decrease is needed. Work up and down as usual, increasing at the crown for the wedge, then back down. Making the final decrease here. Leave the last stitch unworked. Chain 1, turn. We have finished the ear flap shaping. Both sides are now symmetrical. I'll work the row up to this point. Behold, the ear flap is finished. Now continue working the crown wedge. At the bottom, we start the front section of the hat, the part above the eyebrows. If you're making this for yourself, try it on to see exactly where you want the front section to end. Measure or count how many stitches you need for the front. I counted 27 stitches down from the crown. At the crown, continue the wedge. At the bottom, work only until you reach the marker. To make the transition smoother than at the back, we'll use a little trick in the first row. Work from the crown down to the marker. Work into the marked stitch. Then work 2 extra stitches below the marker. This rounds out the corner. Turn it. Work back up. I'll see you once I'm working back down towards the front edge. Work into the marked stitch. Chain 1, turn. Do you see this step? It helps round the corner. Now we have reached the height of the front edge of the hat. Work straight for several rows at the bottom while continuing crown wedges at the top. When one wedge finishes, start the next. Finish the third wedge at the crown, working to the marker at the bottom. We'll meet once the third wedge is done. Third wedge complete. Starting the fourth wedge now. Count down 10 stitches as usual. Move the marker. Count 10 stitches to start the next crown wedge. Continue working wedge shaping at the crown, straight edge at the bottom. Stop when you have only 4 stitches left at the crown. Why 4? In the third wedge we were finishing the ear flap. To keep it symmetrical when we reach the fourth wedge, we need to leave room to start the second ear flap. Work the fourth wedge until 4 crown stitches remain. Now start the second flap. I've worked the fourth wedge rows, 4 stitches left at the top. Chain 1, turn. And work back loop only slip stitches across. Chain 2 at the bottom to start the curve, just like the first flap. Skip 1 chain, slip stitch in the second. Work back across. Front section finished. Now work the crown and the second ear flap simultaneously. Make it perfectly symmetrical. I have 35 flap stitches here, so I chain 35 here. Work down, chain 35 and work this flap just like the first one. The crown wedge might look a bit different but follows the same logic. It's easy once you know how. Once the fourth wedge is done, start the fifth one. Ear flap curves match, increase first, work straight, then decrease. At the crown, continue the wedges. Mark 10 stitches for each new wedge. Step up by 1 stitch each row. When a wedge is done, reset the 10 stitch marker. Wedges on top, ear flap on the bottom. If at the end you are a couple stitches off or have a few extra, don't panic. Just work those stitches in slip stitches up to the crown. The hat body is done. Now it's time to seam it. We want the pattern to match invisibly. To do this, work 1 more row down from the crown. The working yarn should end at the bottom. This ensures the seam is nearly invisible. Mark the stopping point with a marker. Lay the hat flat and check for perfect symmetry. Lay the hat flat and check for perfect symmetry. Mark the nape section to match the other side. You can also count the stitches to be precise. Counting is more accurate. Marker is set. Work back loop only slip stitches to the marker. I had one stitch missing at the crown, so I'll skip one stitch here to keep the stitch count even. Work the slip stitch into the marked stitch. Pull a long loop and fasten off, pulling the yarn tail through. Next step, seaming. You'll need a tapestry needle. Cut a tail about 5 times the length of the seam. That's plenty. Cut the yarn. Identify the right and wrong sides. On the right sides, the stitches look like knit stitches, pointing upwards. On the wrong sides, the stitches point downwards. Wrong side, stitches look inverted. Right side, stitches go in the correct direction. Here is the right side, and here is the wrong side. Seam on the wrong side. Fold the hat with the right side facing in, wrong side facing out. Let's see the seaming up close. For a beautiful seam, seam through the back loop only of the last row. See these V chains on the right side? They are more visible when stretched. We want these chains to stay on the right side. So we turn it over and seam through the back loops. On the other side, seam through the foundation chain. Start seaming at the very edge. Work through the back loop only and back into the stitch the yarn just came from. Pull tight. This is like a mattress stitch for crochet. Go into the next stitch at the bottom and back into the same stitch at the top. Work in a zigzag pattern. Next stitch on one side, then back into the same on the other. This makes a very clean seam. Use whatever method you prefer, of course. Work all the way to the crown. At the crown, seam like this. The foundation chain side might look longer not because of the stitch count, but because it's looser. Seam to the very top. To close the remaining gap, weave the yarn around the hole. Like this. Pull the yarn tight to close the hole. Secure the yarn. You can knot it with the starting tail. Hat is almost ready. You could leave it like this, it already looks quite neat. But a decorative edging makes it even better. To avoid tightening the edge too much, use a hook 1 or 2 sizes larger than the main hook. For the first edging row, work slip stitches. Where there is a chain edge, work in the front loops only. Join your yarn and work front loops only slip stitches. No chains on this edge? Just slip stitch directly into the edge. Keep it loose, don't pull tight. Stay as close to the edge as possible. Use the larger hook for the first row. After that, you can switch back or keep using it. If you don't upsize the hook for row 1, the edge might become too tight to wear comfortably. Continue slip stitching. Work into the front loops, the ones closest to you. When working the ear flap curves, work your stitches closely together. First edging row complete. On to the next row. Join the end and start of the row. Work front loops, only slip stitches all the way around. You can work as many rows as you like, 2, 3 or 4. See how it looks. I'll add 2 more rows. I ran out of the main yarn, so I'll finish with 2 strands of mohair. Using a smaller hook now for convenience with the thinner yarn. Work front loops, only slip stitches. Keep them loose. Be careful not to tighten the edge. Once you're happy with the edging, pull the yarn, fasten off and weave in ends. That's it. Your bonnet ear flap hat is finished. It looks so neat. Thanks for crocheting with me. Subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon for updates. See you in the next video.